Ladies and gentlemen, SideStrafe back with another episode of the Strafing Run. And it has indeed been a while since I've thrown one of these at you, but I thought I'd go ahead and provide you with a state of the channel address. Got a few things to discuss, but first and foremost, background footage, Star Wars Battlefront Blast Mode. Nothing crazy, just felt like playing this about a week ago. Sadly, there's not a lot of people online, as you can see from this matchup here. Only 2 people, including myself, on the Imperial side. Fortunately, I end up doing pretty well, as you'll see. But, man, it's sad. I like this game. I really do. I think it's got some great core gameplay. The problem is, as I've always said, is that it's called Battlefront. And when you call a game Battlefront, people expect it to be like the original Battlefront games. In my opinion, it's never a good idea to come out with a new game that has less features than the game that came before it. Always a huge mistake, and, you know, EA and DICE are not the only ones to have done this. I mean, we can take a look at a lot of the Rainbow Six games and the Ghost Recon titles over the years. But, yeah, it just stinks because this game, it just bleeds Star Wars. The original trilogy is done so well. It looks great. It sounds great. The animations are fluidic, and it just feels like Star Wars. The new maps, some of the stuff from the Bespin DLC, absolutely fantastic. They nailed every little detail. I went around in the private match mode with a friend of mine, I think a week ago or something like that, and we just loaded up every map and wandered around without being in combat. And we were in, I think, Jabba's Palace, which was an earlier DLC, the first one that they had released, and you could find every aspect of the films within, you know, the map. Faithful recreations of these iconic locations, but sadly they're just not getting any use. Battlefront is not what a lot of PC gamers wanted. I think the last statistic I saw was something like 5,000 players online during peak hours. That's terrible for a Star Wars game built by DICE and published by EA. That's really, really bad. Now, on console, it's doing a little better. I think their peak player base is something like 20,000, but even that is a lot lower than it used to be. It used to, I think, be something like 50,000 to 100,000 plus during launch. Real shame. I think if they had named this game something else, I've said this before, if they'd have called it something like Star Wars Blast Them, or, you know, something that would have made sense for this kind of game, then maybe a lot of people would have given it a fair shake. Then you really technically wouldn't be allowed to complain. I mean, let's face it, people would complain because anything you create nowadays is open to criticism. There's always going to be somebody to complain about something. Comparisons would be made. People would just be mad that it's not like Battlefield or something like that since DICE made it. I don't think they would have been able to win, but I think it would have been a lot less harsh because now you can just go in and say, well, you know, Battlefront 2 had this, and this, and, you know, this game doesn't have half of that. It's too bad. I mean, you really got to come into this one with an open mind. If you do, you find some great gameplay. It's just actually very, very solid. And out of all of the modern day shooters that are out there, I'd say one of the more balanced ones. I think a lot of people are obsessed with progression systems, but I often believe that progression systems break quite a bit of the gameplay because it comes down to either paying for unlocks or spending more time than the average Joe has to actually acquire those unlocks. But anyways, it is what it is. I wouldn't suggest buying this game unless you can get it for a deep discount nowadays because, well, on PC you just won't find many people to play with, unfortunately. Anyways, moving right along, state of the channel address. So, what's going on here on the good old SideStrafe channel? This, I suppose, to a lesser extent, can include Twitch.tv, but I don't spend as much time there these days, sadly. It just has a lot to do with scheduling and whatnot. 2016 has been a rough year for a variety of reasons, but I guess we'll just discuss the YouTube-related ones. I think my biggest issue has always been the fact that I'm a variety gamer. I like a lot of genres. You know, I like a lot of games within those genres. And I'm generally the kind of person that always wants to share everything that I'm playing. For the most part, when you ask me, SideStrafe, what have you been playing? Are you playing this? Are you playing that? If you don't see it on the channel, then I'm probably not playing it. Unless maybe it's something like an MMO that I just play in my spare time. Once in a while I'll play Final Fantasy or Realm Reborn or maybe some World of Warcraft when new expansions hit. But I don't generally put that kind of stuff on the channel due to the fact that I know that it's kind of out of what I normally cover. Even though lately I've been covering a few games that probably don't fit on the channel either, namely Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us. And we'll discuss those because that's kind of a different direction for me that I've been enjoying, but I don't necessarily know if it's great for business. And I think that's what it comes down to. A lot of the things that I've chosen to do with the channel aren't great for business. I've never admitted to being a good businessman. I tend to focus more so on doing what's right in general and what's right for me, as opposed to doing what's good for the business and what's going to earn me the biggest buck. I've talked about this before. If you've been with me for some time, you know that a lot of this channel's success probably comes from the discovery of the DayZ mod back in the day. I'm responsible for one of the very first impressions of the mod, probably the highest viewed video on the channel. And at that time, my channel was really small, maybe like 6,000 viewers. Made this first impressions of a mod that nobody knew about except, you know, a small group of individuals. And this sucker went viral. All of a sudden, I was getting massive amounts of subscribers, lots of views. My paycheck the month after that was just insanity. Probably one of the largest paychecks I'd ever seen in my life. And it was one of those things where I guarantee you any other YouTuber would have said, okay, I found success. This is now a DayZ channel. This is now a zombie survival horror open world PvP post-apocalyptic torture each other channel. That's what those games are kind of now, right? Yeah, I don't know, maybe. Anyway, I think a lot of people would have done that. I think a lot of people do that. I think you find that there are a lot of variety channels out there that only play a lot of games because they're throwing things at the wall until something sticks, you know, that old saying. And then all of a sudden, when they find that one game that brings them success, boom, that channel does a total conversion to nothing but that game. And it's kind of sad, especially if you were there for the variety. All of a sudden, this channel that used to cover a bunch of games is only covering one now, and maybe you're not even really all that interested in that one. It's definitely a downer, and I can see where people would want to unsub due to that reason. But on the flip side, you can understand why the YouTuber might want to do it based on how difficult it is to make a living off of this kind of career. I think the other issue is, if you have somebody that was a variety gamer or that inherently is a variety gamer, how long can they stick with that one game before they start to get tired of it and the quality drops to a level that is unacceptable to you? I think some people are good at maintaining the illusion of being entertained by a game. It's kind of like, you know, a Hollywood actor or a television actor. Harrison Ford is a fantastic example. Great actor. He's more than capable of getting us to believe he is who he is on the big screen. But if you were to ask him about Han Solo, he'll tell you, I don't care. You know, he'll say that, and, you know, he'll defend George Lucas because that's his job, is to defend the films that he's worked on. And that's fine. I don't think actors necessarily need to care or be passionate about the characters as long as they do a good job at acting. Now, when it comes to YouTube, I suppose to a certain extent we can say the same thing. Well, this person doesn't play that game anymore, but they still cover it and they do a good job of covering it. I don't really see a big deal. That's cool. That's fine. But I think where I personally have an issue with it is that for me, YouTube was the place that I went to escape the places like IGN and GameSpot and whatever other magazine review style websites, because we couldn't trust them anymore. We weren't sure about the reviews they were giving, because you'd go there and there'd be a banner ad about the game they just gave 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, and you'd be like, And I've talked about all this stuff before, I think in another strafing run, so I don't want to get too far into it. But I think the final straw for me has been related to something that's been going on recently, and that's with my Last of Us videos. Copyright strikes. I've never really had a huge issue with them, mostly because I cover multiplayer games, and most of the individuals that have issues with them tend to cover single-player games that have a lot of soundtrack music that come from the game, or perhaps use music from other record labels within the games. And so now that I've been doing some playthroughs of single-player games, namely Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us, I'm getting hit by some copyright strikes. Now, I only had one in Uncharted 4. It was related to I think it was a Beethoven piece that was on an interactive record player within a mansion. I got that one squared away. My network helped me out. But then The Last of Us. Wow, this game, for some reason, this soundtrack is like a minefield of copyright strikes. Some of the regular soundtrack is just getting hit for some reason. Regular orchestral music made for this game is getting nailed by this automatic flagger. And what that means is when you get a copyright strike on music, some other company is coming in and trying to make money off of your video, and it's preventing you from monetizing. It's preventing you from making any money off of your creation because of this soundtrack piece, which might only play for like a minute or two during the actual gameplay. And so 3 of my videos had gotten hit in The Last of Us. So that's 3 videos that I wasn't able to make any money off of, which means I'm pretty much wasting my time as far as business is concerned. I'm enjoying the game. I'm enjoying sharing it with you, but I gotta make some money. Otherwise, I can't do this full time. So these copyright strikes come in. I release the videos, boom. That kind of stinks, to know that just some jabronis out there making money off of something I spent 5 hours rendering. 2 times I think it was like soundtrack. The 3rd time was like a Hank Williams piece that plays on a cassette in a cutscene, and I couldn't cut out the cutscene because it's a crucial part to the story. And so I was like, well, nothing I can do about that. But what's worse is that in some cases these copyright strikes lead to not being able to view the video on mobile devices, or even in certain countries. Like at one point it said not viewable in Germany. I'm like, what? Germany's in my top 10 viewer demographics, like there's a lot of German people that watch my videos. What are you doing? So trying to get my network to fix episode 4 of The Last of Us. If you're trying to watch that one, please try to watch it on your PC and not a mobile device. That might help. Otherwise, there's nothing I can do about it because I don't have that footage anymore, which means I can't re-render anything without it. So it is what it is, and I apologize if you've not been able to view that. But that was kind of the final straw. I said, all right, well, if I'm going to get hit by copyright strikes for doing these playthroughs, because there's a lot of other single-player games I want to cover in the future, I need to do something. So, Patreon. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Patreon. It's been around for a long time now. I made an account probably over a year ago, but I sat on it. I don't like accepting donations, which is why I've never accepted donations on my live stream. I don't set up any type of PayPal donation or tipping service. I just don't like the idea of it. I don't want to feel like I have to owe somebody anything, or feel that it's just I don't even like talking about it. I almost didn't even want to talk about it in this video. It makes me very uncomfortable. I don't like taking money from my family or friends even. But the thing is, at the end of the day, if I want to keep doing this full time, well then I gotta make money. And if YouTube isn't going to help me out, then I need some sort of support. I even, had discussions with Bombadil of No Guts, No Galaxy. I think for the past year, he's been trying to get me to launch on Patreon. He's like, dude, your stuff is good. It's above average. It's better than a lot of the stuff that's out there. You deserve to get paid. I'm like, I know. Because you know how it is as a content creator, artist, actor, musician, whatever. You're your own worst critic. You're always going to think that you can do something better. And that's how I am. So I don't necessarily credit myself enough for some of the stuff that I make. And it's YouTube. Sometimes it's just simple gameplay. It's nothing too crazy, but it's the little touches that I think sell what I do. Like the way I do a playthrough versus the way somebody else does it. I don't talk over the dialogue. I don't cut the videos at an inopportune time. I make sure that the video and audio bit rates are absolutely fantastic. Well, as fantastic as you can get on YouTube. Sadly, they don't showcase the bit rates as they are in my source files, but anyways, the Patreon, link in the description below. It'll probably be there for every video I make. It will probably show up in a interactive card within the video as well. You can click on that. Might be at the beginning of each video I make now. Will be on the banner of the YouTube channel and be somewhere in the Twitch page as well. You can donate any amount you want. You know, you can start at $1, $2, whatever. It's up to you. You can decide what my content is worth to you from there. In the future, we could look at potentially offering some sort of contributor server access. If we ever find a game that's worth having the SideStrafe community on, I've been trying to find a game that we can all play together for a very long time, but I never end up finding anything that's worth investing in a server for. But again, that kind of stuff is expensive, and that's like a long-term goal. I don't want to make any promises to that right now because admittedly any money that I do make today is going to need to go towards priority stuff like food, paying bills and whatnot. And I don't want anybody to think I'm suffering. I'm not going to be living in a box tomorrow or anything. I'm doing good. You know, I've got my savings and whatnot. I've been smart about that, and there aren't any problems. It's just looking into the future. There's no way this is sustainable with the views being what they are right now, or at least with me covering games the way I am. And I know a lot of you really thoroughly enjoyed the Uncharted 4 playthrough, and I loved creating it. I was really passionate about finishing that game, and that was the first time I've ever finished anything on the channel, like, because I usually cover multiplayer games and they just keep going until I get sick of the game. Well, here was a fantastic campaign that I could complete, and you could watch hours upon hours of cinematic excellence there. But I can't keep doing those things because the views on them are so low, and AAA single-player titles are often covered by much larger channels, and YouTube tends to provide them with the spotlight, which means it's hard for me to get my foot in the door with that. Very difficult to get enough subscribers that appreciate the way I deliver, you know, a playthrough. So creating playthroughs of Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us, not great for the paycheck. That's why we're on Patreon now. So really, those funds are just going towards continuing to do things that don't necessarily make the channel a ton of money. So it's really up to you guys. I always say that I appreciate any kind of support, even if it's free support. If you're watching a video and not using ad blocker, thank you. If you're watching an ad all the way through, that does help. You know, if you're not hitting the skip button on an ad, that does help. If you're hitting the like button, which a lot of people never do, it does actually help. You know, it does make the channel look better, and in some ways it might boost the search factor for the video. If you're sharing it, if you're retweeting, if you're following me on things like Twitter and Facebook, that helps. That makes me look good, you know. I know some of you aren't into social media, so that's totally fine. I understand. That's why there's a bunch of different ways to support by just, you know, watching the video, sharing it, subreddits for games, forums for the games, things like that, sharing friends and families. Get the word out. Tell people to watch the videos. That's the #1 way to support the channel. But, you know, for those that want to give a little extra, now we have this Patreon option. You know, so those of you that were insisting that I get some sort of donation or contribution platform up, there it is. You can stop yelling at me to do that. I've finally done it. It took several copyright strikes to do it, but it's there. Anyways, now that that's out of the way, again, link in the description below. Let's discuss the current content we've been covering. Obviously, we did the Uncharted 4 thing. And now we're in the middle of The Last of Us. Expect some content delays for that based on me resolving copyright strikes, because what usually happens is I'll finish the playthrough, I'll put it in the editor, cut it where it needs to be cut, upload it, and keep it unlisted, which means you can't see it unless you have the link for it. And why I do that is because sometimes I'll release something too late and I'll just want to release it the next day when more people will be available to see it. But primarily I'm doing it because when it's on unlisted status, that's when it can get hit by the copyright strike. And so what I then try to do is, if it does get hit, I send it to my network representative and say, hey, can you help me out here? And they send it to somebody and they try to have it resolved. Sadly, though, this can take a couple of days. So I get really screwed over there. I'm going to look into The Last of Us and consider maybe trying to, I don't know. I don't really want to turn off the music in the game because I feel like that's part of the cinematic experience. But if the game allows me to turn off the music, then I might have to. So I'm going to look into that. We'll see. But I've also considered maybe going back and playing Uncharted 1 through 3, which I've played in the past on PlayStation 3. But some time ago, they came out with remastered editions for PlayStation 4, which means they're 1080p and 60 FPS, amongst a few other things. Because when I did the Uncharted 4 playthrough, I wasn't sure that I was going to do it. I was kind of like, maybe I'll just live stream it. I tried to live stream it, and then for some reason my stream was dropping every 10 minutes, and then I gave up on it. But then in my gut, I was like, I want people to see the VOD. I want a higher quality bit rate. I want people to see this in 1080p 60, not 720. And it's like, I'm just going to do this on the channel because this is the last Uncharted game by Naughty Dog. This is like the grand finale game for them with this franchise, and I want to, respect it. And I did it, and it was so much fun. I label it as my favorite game of all time. I'm 35 years old. I've played a lot of video games in my time. It's literally my favorite game ever, even though it's a console game. It's just absolute definition of AAA. I feel like every game developer should be forced to play this game before making a title, so that they know what it takes to create a video game. I'm not sure that there's going to be a game out there that can beat this one for a very long time. The Last of Us is so far quite fantastic, but I think it's in my nature to prefer the kind of Indiana Jones style, exotic location, platforming adventure games like Uncharted. So we'll see how it goes from there. But I always say this about Uncharted games: if you're not going to play them yourself, watch somebody play through them. Maybe you don't have things to watch on Netflix or Hulu or YouTube or HBO or whatever. You got your food ready in front of you. You want to watch something. I don't think you'll be disappointed with watching me play through these Uncharted games. It's just such a cinematic adventure. Like I said earlier, I don't talk over the dialogue. I show you all the scenery. I take the time to admire the environments and the work that goes into the title. I think you'll find it to be a pleasurable experience. And a lot of people have enjoyed it. I wish more people could find the videos to see the way I play through these titles. But yeah, I'm considering maybe going back and playing through the first 3 titles. Might be a little difficult because Uncharted 4 is so much more superior to the old ones in terms of even just gameplay. It might be really hard to go backwards in time and play some of the older ones. But I'm considering it just because some of you really, really enjoyed Uncharted because you've never owned a PlayStation 3 and 4, and you've never been exposed to these titles before. And I really enjoyed sharing them. So I'm thinking about it. I don't want to promise it because that would be a lot of gameplay hours. And I have to consider the release schedule of some other titles, because I think I would like to try to do a playthrough of the Battlefield 1 campaign, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare campaign. I know everybody wants to hate on that game, but I actually think the campaign looks pretty good. I think people are just mad because it's science fiction again. I like sci-fi, so it wouldn't be an issue for me. And then, 2017, there's a lot of single-player stuff. Oh, Titanfall 2. I think Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1 are both in October. Is COD in October as well? Maybe. That could be tough. Because Titanfall 2 is actually going to have single player, which is something we all wanted. 2017. What's in 2017? I thought there was something. Well, Mass Effect Andromeda, I think, is next year as well, is it not? So I'm considering covering that. That would be a big game to cover. That would be a lot of hours of gameplay since it's more open world RPG. I was considering Witcher 3, but I just don't know that I have the time for it. And considering it's older now too. I don't know. I'm sure there's other games that I could mention, but I can't think of them right now. There's some other ones in 2017 that I'm considering doing playthroughs of. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing the playthroughs, and I didn't necessarily want to be like a Let's Play channel or anything, but I liked it. And it seems like a lot of you guys really enjoy the way I go through the game, which is just the way I enjoy my games. Now, there are some people out there that seem to have a problem with the way I play games, especially with The Last of Us. I don't know what it is with that game. It's like The Last of Us brings out the worst in us. There's some people that are really picky about how other people go through their video games. I talked about this in the recent Last of Us video, but real quick, if you don't like the way I play a video game, if you have an issue with something I do or say on this channel, then I would kindly suggest you not watch my content. Because you have to realize that for me, video games are an escape. You know, it's my way of being a hero in a video game and adventuring without having to worry about everything that's going on in reality, okay? And at the end of the day, especially considering recent events in Dallas and other places and other parts of the world, life could be much worse for many of us. So let's kind of keep the drama off of this channel as much as possible. I'll do my best if you do your best. The older you get, the more you start to zoom out and realize how petty a lot of this video game related rage is. Let's all just band together and be a little bit more positive about these playthroughs. And that's not just to me, but other YouTubers and streamers out there. Put yourself in their shoes and respect that some of them, not all of them, but some of them are trying to do right by you. With that said, I think we're nearing the end of this video. Real quick, I wanted to talk about the fact that I will probably also be looking at the multiplayer content within the titles that I had mentioned for single-player content, like Battlefield 1, COD Infinite Warfare, Titanfall 2. I'll probably also take a look at the multiplayer for those. Ooh, Forza Horizon is going to be on PC, which might mean that Halo 6 could be on PC. I might take a look at those if that's the case. I do love a good racing game. But anyways, okay. I wanted to talk about Battlefield 1 real quick. Game looks good. It's a little weird because it's filled with semi-automatic and automatic weapons. And in World War I, it was a lot of bolt-action rifles. It's not that auto and semi-auto didn't exist. It's just they didn't exist in large quantities. So if you're going to play Battlefield 1, it seems like you got to go in with an open mind to their alternate history idea. Although it's almost like they could have just made a World War II game if they wanted people running around with semi-auto and auto weapons all day long. But I think the World War I thing is part of their gimmick. There's not a lot of World War I games out there. If you want historical accuracy, you're going to play Verdun, and that's like really the only good World War I title that's available. So I think with Battlefield 1, it's kind of like, hey guys, you know, we're doing something new, but we're, you know, taking our own creative liberties with the availability of certain weapon systems and whatnot. I think the thing that will make it good compared to other Battlefield titles, especially modern day ones, is the fact that we're not going to have to put up with unbalanced lock-on weapons and devices. So I am looking forward to playing it for that reason, but I'm also not going to get overhyped. Okay. So yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for now. I really hope that you've enjoyed this look at Star Wars Battlefront again and the Strafing run. Oops, teams were kind of lopsided. My bad. Still had fun. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you on the next one.